Warning, there is this episode. Sorry.
Welcome to Your Music Saved Us, where two friends blast ourselves into the past to relive and recontextualize the alternative Christian music we grew up listening to in the 1990s. My name is Jay, and with me is the man who is cooler than you think, Clifton. How are you doing today, Clifton?
I'm cooler than you think, I guess. I don't know. I'm in Texas, so I'm not. It's hot.
Right. Hey, I'm just riffing on the song titles. Clifton, what are we listening to today?
We are listening to, with nothing creative here, 121's, I guess, second official release. Also their first EP in the year King Uzziah died.
Okay. How hard was this to find?
Well, it's not on Spotify, although almost everything else 121 has done is. And there's really just this and that first 7-inch missing. But it is on YouTube. There's a single video with the entire EP in one video. And so is that 7-inch, by the way. There's also a video with just that entire 7-inch.
Good. Thank you, YouTube user that I can't remember your name right now, for sharing that on there. But Clifton, tell us a little bit about 121.
121 formed back in December of 1995 from the ashes of a previous band that both Ken and Tom were in. From the outset of the band through this EP, 121 was Ken Klein on vocals, Paul Sanders on guitar, Tom Manns on bass, and Vince Radcliffe on drums. The guys were, and as far as I can tell, still are, from Philadelphia, PA. And very early on, like somehow almost immediately, they recorded a 10-song demo, and that demo found its way around. And it took them places. So Boot Ahead put out This Is Our Riot on a compilation of theirs called Trampled. Cliff Powell, otherwise known as Cliffy Huntington, sent a copy to Alex Parker, the manager of Flying Tart. But in the meantime, the guys hooked up with Sofa Records, and I think they were trying to record a full length, but they ended up with a 6-song 7-inch called JXIXSX for Jehovah is Strength.
So wait, a 6-song 7-inch.
Yep.
That must be short songs.
Yep. They have to be short songs. Yes, very short songs to fit 3 songs per side on a 7-inch, because usually 7-inches have 1 song per side.
Right.
3 of the songs from that 7-inch ended up being re-recorded for this EP. Shiprock Disaster made it onto their next album, When the Dragon is Finally Laid to Rest. And even before that 7-inch came out, Flying Tart contacted 121 based on the demo that Cliffy Huntington had given them and offered them a place on the label. Before they even had that agreement signed, though, 121 ended up on 3 compilations from Flying Tart. And by the way, Flying Tart used to put out so many compilations trying to get the label off the ground. So the 7-inch version of Jehovah's Strength appeared on the celebrated Starball contribution from Flying Tart. The guys went into a studio to perform Carol of the Bells for Christmas in Heaven. And the EP version of This Is Our Riot is on something called the Memorial compilation from Flying Tart. I've never heard of that, and the internet doesn't seem to have heard of it, but a band fan page says that, so I don't know. This EP was recorded at Clay Creek Studios in Newark, Delaware. The studio's still there, and they have a Facebook page. You can look it up. Huntington's recorded there among many other big names in punk. This album was released in April 1997, just a short 16 months after the band formed. Oh, also, I found, if anyone wants to try sending an email to Klein121 at AOL, that's KLEINONE21 at AOL. I found that email address when I was looking around. I'm not sure if it works, but give it a try. It might be fun.
I'll say one other thing I found, Clifton, when I was looking at this, that Clay Creek Studios in Delaware, sadly, the guy who ran it and owned it, Nick Rotundo, actually died in 2018.
Oh.
And they had like kind of a big benefit concert for him after the fact. And a lot of punking bands record there, not just Christian ones, but some that people might know from, Christian realm, Huntington's, Narcissus, Tantrum of the Muse, Blaster the Rocket Man's album was there, and there's
Voice
a bunch
Fire.
of others. Yeah, exactly. And so I'm not sure if the studio is still around after him or not, but that guy recorded a lot of stuff.
Well, their Facebook page was actually started in 2019. So
maybe like a memorial, or maybe they're keeping it going. I don't know.
Maybe they must be keeping it going because all the stuff was new. They had new videos and everything.
Okay, well, good then.
Yeah. Also, we should note that we're 19 episodes into this podcast. This is our first Flying Tart album.
And it will not be our last,
No.
because Clifton and I were both fans of quite a lot of the stuff they put out. I will say the frustrating thing about Flying Tart, as evidenced by this album, is it's not easy to find now. It's not on Spotify. I'm guessing it's all out of print. It would be nice, hint, Alex Parker or whoever, could you please just make some of this easier to find on streaming services?
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yes.
But anyway, getting back to the album, Clifton, when did this come into your life? What's your memory of this?
So I didn't have any money in high school. I didn't have a job, and not because like I was concentrating on my studies or some noble reason like that. I was just a bum. My grades did fine on their own without me putting in much effort. But I guess my parents gave me money. Otherwise, I'm not sure how I paid for gas, although gas was super cheap back in the late 90s. Yeah, I'm under no illusion that I didn't grow up a very privileged life. But they didn't give me a lot of money. But I know they gave me money for lunch at school. And I would eat the cheapest thing the cafeteria would serve me every day. And then about every other week, I could afford to buy a CD. A full length would cost you like $12 back then, but an EP you could grab for like $6, maybe $5. And that is why EPs have long held a special place in my heart. And this is one of those EPs. So, I know when we first got it, I didn't buy this, so I must not have had any money, because Stuart bought this one. I remember both of us were very excited to find out what was inside this package with crossbones and ransom note lettering. All we knew was that it was going to be punk as fuck, punk rock, I mean. We had listened to like MXPX and Slick Shoes after that point, and I'd already kind of rejected like POD and Grammar Train as unlistenable. But I never heard, guitars like plow through power chords like this. Never heard drums like crash and bang with a compulsion. Never heard someone scream as if time was running out and there was too much left unsaid. But honestly, at first, I wanted to like it, but I remember like an inner struggle that I wasn't sure if it was catchy enough for me. But I pushed through, all the noisy guitars and crashing cymbals. I eventually found a beauty in that chaos that's honestly stuck with me to today. And the barely intelligible lyrics streamed at the top of their lungs hit me deep inside more often than not. From, This Is a Riot, Johnny Come Home, Uzziah Was Hardly a King at All, Ashamed of Myself, I Just Want to Cry, But You Would Never Know by the Way I Am Tonight. I remember when this short little crazy EP was over, Stuart and I started again. And then again, and we listened to that like at least half a dozen times that day. And I've honestly never stopped. 25 years later, I'm still listening to this EP, memorizing every school of the guitar, enjoying every bass as lead that you only get on old school punk rock like this, and even figuring out some more of the lyrics, I think. But we'll get to that.
Clearly, this was something you liked and listened to a whole lot.
Yes.
I had like a little bit different way of coming to this. So I think I mentioned it before on podcasts, but in 1996, I went to the Cornerstone Festival for the first time, and that like changed everything and kind of just like blew my mind seeing so many of these bands that were never going to come through my town in Texas, but could see them all live. And I spent so much of my lawn mowing money on merch and stuff there, and I'm pretty sure I got that Boot to Head Trampled compilation because I was all about like, oh, I can't find this back home at the Christian bookstore, so I was getting stuff like that. And I'm pretty sure that's when I heard about 121. Another thing that happened at that time, both at Cornerstone and then just from me being a nerd and looking up and mailing off for stuff, was I discovered like underground Christian music zines. And so heard about 121 at the time. I think I even saw like a Sofa Records ad in one or another, because I remember their little logo that actually has like a sofa.
Yeah, very memorable logo.
Right.
Yeah.
Side note, and just allow my tangent for a second because I want to get it out in the air, but I picked up a zine called The Garlic Press.
Yeah.
at Cornerstone that summer, and it was literally the best Christian zine I'd ever seen. It had chocked full of interviews, chock full of reviews. It came from Canada, and I looked it up recently, and it was from a guy named Daryl Mickelsick. I don't know if I'm saying his last name right. I no longer have my copy. I can't find any on the internet other than just, information that existed. I can't find Daryl, and trust me, I love to look stuff up online. But if anyone knows him or has back issues, would love to get a hold of them from you and see them again, because it would also be useful for what we're doing here with the interviews and things. But side note, Garlic Press, awesome magazine. Okay, back to this.
And with scanners, there's no reason that stuff shouldn't be everywhere these days.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you don't actually have to give up your copy. You could just scan it in and we can all enjoy it. So yes, please, if you have that or other cool zines from back in the day, please share.
Wait, to interrupt your story one more time. So 121 played at Cornerstone 96. They were invited by the Huntingtons. And that Cornerstone 96 is when Alex and 121 guys kind of negotiated and finalized their contract.
Okay. I don't think I saw them then, but who knows? It's been a long time. But anyway, so I was aware of this, and so then I picked this up when it came out. I don't remember exactly when in 97, but, I was already kind of primed and looking for it and kind of knew what to expect before I put it on.
Cool.
So you've kind of already touched on this, and it sounds like you've kind of listened to this, a lot, not just recently rediscovering it, but before. So maybe you don't need to answer these, but did you have any kind of expectations or anything before putting this on again?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like you just touched on. It's kind of an unfair question because I've listened to it so recently that it's there was nothing forgot about this about this EP. So I knew exactly what to expect going in.
Okay. For me, I hadn't listened to it in a long time, and I was kind of surprised how much I remembered, especially like the choruses of the songs.
Yeah.
I also was really surprised at how short it was. Like, it's what, like 16, 17 minutes long total?
No, it's less than 15.
Is it less than 15? Yeah, it's short.
14 minutes, 40 seconds.
Okay, so in my mind, it was longer than that. So, but when the songs are all like 2 minutes long, there you go.
Yeah.
Well, let's jump into it.
All right.
And the first song is, like I mentioned to you at the beginning, it is called "Cooler Than You Think." So, tell us about it.
Yeah. So, whatever this album is lacking, and I'm not saying it's lacking anything right now, it more than makes up for in enthusiasm and intensity, which honestly bring a certain amount of charm to it. And kind of like, when we talked to Sean of Rainy Days, like every song just rocks out as fast as they can manage to go, and they manage to go pretty damn fast. So the album kind of opens up with like a palm muting guitar, just like and anyways, and then that kind of fades out, and there's like a drumstick count, and then boom, everything comes in. The guys, they're squealing guitars, scream vocals, everything's just going like 100 miles an hour. Ken's vocals are just non-stop and desperate. In fact, I think you can kind of describe most of this album as desperate to be like something, just something. Which I think we'll talk about a little bit when we get to the end, because there's some interesting things that they say about this album later on in interviews. I'll admit I can't understand most or even maybe almost all of the vocals percentage-wise, and that may be one complaint that you can hold against them. But you can make out words. Like in the first verse of this, you can definitely hear the word "believe" a few times. But Ken has a great rhythm to his vocals, and I think they sound really good. Towards the end of the verse, we get background vocals screaming something like "We are the bigots" or something like that. I don't know. I'm pretty sure that's right though. Behind that, there's just guitars that are just kind of like get squeaky, peaky, and squilly. I really like it. I'll have to play that for people to hear. Then there's the verse where Ken screams something like "Torn are the guilty," and after that line, there's like a bass that's all like. Anyways, it's like "Torn are the guilty," and there's a bass that's like "doon doon 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 doon," and crashing cymbals and everything. It's great. Then that breaks down to like a sing song. Yeah, this is weird. It kind of goes into sing song. You get a child's chorus and people probably remember this from like childhood if they were in the church. It says the Bible. Yes, that's the book for me. They kind of go into this for a little bit, and then and it works back into the punk song, still going into that. And then it's just over. And it feels like it's almost over before it even begins, but that's kind of punk rock, right?
Yeah, and I wanna agree with you on the vocal part. I think his vocals are just like perfect for this style of music. Like,
yeah,
just in tone wise, like they're not too high pitched, they're not too low. Like the vocals are really perfect for this style of music, and he does a really good job. And you're right, it's hard to make out all the lyrics, but you can get part of it. Yeah, they're good.
Yeah, and I think that's important on the vocals. So on the All Music review for this album, they say that the vocals are horrible, which I just have to 100% disagree with. I think if you like punk rock, these are great vocals. I mean, if you're trying to listen to, I don't know what's an album where people sing. I don't know albums where people sing, but if you're trying to listen to the Newsboys, this is not what you're looking for. Okay.
Yeah, no, this fits the style of music perfectly.
Yeah.
So, do you want to get into the lyrics?
Yeah. So I think that we can gather from the lyrics that we can understand here. Like I said, the word "believe" is in there in the first part. Then there's that whole, "we are the bigots," and the entire chorus is just "torn are the guilty." So I think this song is like struggling with the church's history of standing on the wrong side of treating people like something less than the children of God. And just realizing, that we are the bigots. We've like been doing this wrong. Probably from the church, using the Bible to justify slavery, and then later like general racism, preaching against like interracial marriage. And especially relevant around, when this album came out, the church often encouraged parents to like disown their own children for being gay. And like all of that is terribly damaging to people and to families and to society overall. And I'm really glad to see 121 just like taking such a strong and progressive stand here.
Yeah, that's not what the lyrics are about. Yeah, no, not at all. Can I read them to you from the actual booklet?
No, I don't care.
Okay, let me just read a little bit to you because I think you need to hear this. It says, "You call us weirdos. You say that we are freaks. You say that we are losers for what we believe. By the Bible is how we should live. The more that you persecute, the more we will forgive. If following the Son of God makes us losers, then we are the biggest. We are the biggest. Cooler than you think. The Bible, that's a book for me, all that stuff at the end." You got that part right.
Good. I'm glad I got some of it right.
So yeah, I wish we could say that it was, against bigotry and preaching against the way the church just kind of had the wrong message. But yeah, it's not.
Yeah. That kind of reminds me of that Pocket Change song where they were mad that, people called them a bad word.
Right.
So, I don't know. Yeah, okay, good. Upset someone called them freaks. Repeat Christian persecution fantasy.
Uh-huh. Exactly.
And to be clear, someone just called them freaks. The end. Like pick up your cross, it's a heavy burden, the spit covers your body, the lashes from the crowd sting, and the weight of the cross pushes the thorns deeper into your skull. Or somebody just called you a freak. Grow the fuck up.
Right.
I guess at least they showing some incredible strength of character by forgiving the people who said mean words to them.
I feel like, you know, it's one of those funny things, right? It's a cycle, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just imagining. Actually, I'll give you a good example. And this was more college, Jay, versus high school. And to be fair, I think I only wore the shirt one time. But I had our church. This is like, actually, this is late college or even after college for me when I was like super religious. But our little church had shirts that's made, and they literally said this. Again, I could only get myself to wear it once. This is too much even for me. But it said, "Stop going to hell" on the shirt. That's just what it said. So I'm imagining something like this with the 121 singer, right? Like you wear this shirt that's automatically going to cause problems for you, right? Somebody may call you a freak because you're wearing something like that. And then
other Christians may call you a freak.
Well, yeah, but then you're like, oh, he just called me a weirdo. They just called me a freak. See, they said I'd be persecuted, and I was persecuted. And it's just this cycle, right? That like, yeah, you acted like a weirdo, and someone called you a weirdo, and there we go.
Yeah, and that's kind of why this kind of persecution narrative is really toxic. And to take that and to build on it, is that I think that there's just like there's this like I don't know, like splintering or something like that, where everyone's just so isolated. Like even when I was in high school, I remember looking at people in other churches and being like, well, they're not real Christians. Yep. They go to a different church or they're a different denomination, And so even though you share a faith with all these people, you still feel splintered and isolated. And when you take that, where you feel isolated from the people of your own faith, and you add on to it the insignificant slights of the world, and you add all of that in, and you feel like everything is against you, and like you're just like standing on your own, and that's incredibly toxic because you don't realize that, and then you have to multiply that by the fact that every denomination feels that way, right? And so you have all these people who feel like they're the only Christian in the world, or their little group is the only group of Christians in the world, and they're all isolated and persecuted by the others. And where does it end? If you're going to live this persecution narrative, it won't end until there's just two of you left, and then you kill the other person for persecuting you because they believe something different than you did, right? Like there's no end to the persecution narrative if you choose to live it. I don't know. That's all.
Can we talk about the BIBLE part? Like how I'm imagining them playing at like a punk show, and how weird would it have been to been in the audience when they start in, because you're right, you really can't make out a lot of the other lyrics until they morph into that part. And I can just imagine people like spitting out their beer and stuff as that comes across and just like wondering what the hell is going on, because a lot of people at least went to church as little kids and may have heard that song. And so, yeah. And especially, these guys, they don't ever talk about that specifically, but they do talk about the fact that when the band first started, there wasn't a Christian music scene in Philly. There was just a music scene, right? So they were playing with everybody. So definitely at this point in time, they're probably like playing at bars and stuff like that, right? Where yes, people do have a beer, and then people are not expecting the BIBLE, yes, that's the book for me. I stand alone on the word of God, the BIBLE, to come out of the singer's mouth. So, right.
That would be, I would like to have a video of the first time that happened. It would be, just the look on people's faces would be probably priceless.
Like, I think when I heard it back then, I kind of thought it was cool. Little song I sang as a kid, and now they're making it kind of some more like militant, like strong, like thing. And now it just strikes me as really strange. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess it is strange, but there's something nice about it to a certain extent. Like it's familiar,
Yeah.
and it is reappropriating something that's familiar, and so that's cute is the wrong word, but something like that, Yeah.
Okay. Well, speaking of militant and cute, not really.
Yeah.
But should we talk about the next song? This Is Our Riot.
Yeah. So Unlike the first song where there was a cushion on the beginning of it, this one has no cushion into the intro. It just starts off. Everything's going as fast as possible immediately. No complaints. It's great because we immediately get these guys screaming that they need a riot song, basically. And the lyrics are just, this is a riot, this is right, this is our riot song, or something like that. I don't know. The second time through the chorus, there's these really great like gang vocals behind Ken screaming "riot, riot, riot." Anyways, and then between the verse and the chorus, someone's like "ay ay ay ay." It doesn't. I think that sounded like someone making fun of an Indian, but that's not what happens in the album. I'm not making that accusation, but it's just a punk sound, right? But anyways. I think somewhere in the second verse, I recognize the lyrics like "do or die" or something like that. Yeah, and the entire song has an amazing bass line. I think this is honestly, there's lots of songs that talk about how good the bassist is, but this is probably the first song that talks about how good the bassist is. Yeah, let's just leave it at that for now because there'll be times where he has literal bass solos. But there's a guitar solo on this song, and it's exactly my kind of guitar solo. It's like fast and unpretentious and just a little bit corny. It's great. And then it's just over again. Just over. That's it.
I don't have much to add as far as the music goes. You want to touch on the lyrics?
Sure. Yeah. Once again, I can't tell every word that's coming out of Ken's mouth. But it's very obvious that it's a riot song. That's, it's called This Is Our Riot. And the one thing you can understand is this is a riot, this is a riot, this is our riot song. You might ask, why would you need a riot? And I think that should be pretty obvious because this is a punk song and sometimes social justice demands civil disobedience. That's just punk rock, right?
Yeah, so that's not what the song's about.
Jay, stop it.
No.
I don't care.
No.
I don't care.
No, you need to know, Clifton. You need to know. I'm just okay. Here we
just read them.
Yeah.
Read
all right. Here we go. So the beginning of the song is funny. It says, "Me and my brother was sitting around just trying to write a song," and it says, "Write a song about a riot against Satan. Our riot song seems as though he's been in power far too long. I say we riot against Satan. Our riot song." This is our riot. This is our riot against Satan, our riot song. As Christians, we must stand together in love, look for strength and guidance from God above. We can't let Satan win the war. We've got to riot. Spiritual warfare. We've got to riot. And the last part they read, James 4:7, which is submit yourselves to our holy God, resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Draw near to God, and he'll draw near to you. Wash your hands, you sinners, and purify your hearts. Yeah, pretty punk, huh?
So it's about rioting against Satan?
Yeah.
That's kind of boring.
I know. So I don't know, now that you're just catching the first part of the lyrics, maybe it didn't remind you, but does it remind you of that? Do you remember that Cooties song?
Yeah,
where
that's what I said a second ago.
Where they are sitting around like trying to write a song, all that stuff.
Sitting around at home one night.
Yeah.
I think
our goal was to write a song. Yeah.
Oops, sorry.
It reminds me of that, and these albums came out around the same time. I doubt.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really actually think there was any copying there, but it was just interesting. It seems like lazy lyric writing when you're like, we're just trying to write a song. What's it gonna be about?
Maybe they're both copying something else that we're not aware of in the culture.
Yeah,
punk culture. Because this is the punk I grew up. I didn't grow up with NoFX and all that kind of stuff.
Right?
So
no, true.
Maybe something's out there. Yeah.
Well, so they're trying to write a song about a riot. Like, of all the things to think of, let's write about a riot. And so I'm wondering, like, why didn't they write about, like, the Philadelphia race riot of 1964, which I looked up and only took place about 7 miles from the Argyle Street address that's in their liner notes.
Okay.
But no, this is a riot against Satan. Have you noticed how Christians love to use this term? Do you remember when Carmen used riot and made an acronym out of it?
Yeah.
Remember Righteous Invasion of Truth? Yeah. And allow me just a little aside. Here's the first line of that Carmen song. The first set of lyrics is Webster's dictionary say a riot is like an unrestrained uproar in a public place. Turbulent right in your face. With the facts, we're going to spread God's word and attack every lie you've heard. And this could basically be a 121 lyric.
Wait,
I mean,
did Carmen start off his song with Webster defines as?
Yeah, he did.
Fuck that guy. Fuck that guy.
But I mean, the spirit of it, where it says uproar in a public place, turbulent right in your face, with the facts, we're going to spread God's word and attack every lie you've heard. This could be 121. I mean, let's be real.
It could be.
So, yeah.
But also sitting around trying to write a song is almost as lazy as songwriting as Webster's dictionary defines riot as. Those go together really
exactly.
well. Okay.
Exactly. So, unfortunately, we haven't moved too far past, Carmen type things.
All right, 121.
With this.
Carmen can't make up for what he did because he's dead.
I like the sound of it.
Yeah. No, the song's great. Did you just cuss for a second?
Yeah. No, the sound's great, and I remember listening to him be like, "Yeah, riot," and then, but when you start to unpack the lyrics, it's like, "Oh, what?"
I don't think I read the lyrics back when I was a kid. I always read lyrics, but I don't think I ever sat down with his album and read the lyrics for some reason. I don't know why.
I mean, I never did. So anyway, it's.
But I was someone who loved lyrics. I don't know. Of all, I guess what I took from them was good enough for me, and I think that was the right decision.
Yeah. Well, let's move on to Johnny, which is a pretty short song. Tell us about this one, third song on the album.
1 minute and 29 seconds. It starts with a drum roll, and then it's just, and they're off. Although this song is slower than the other two songs so far, and because of that, I think it kind of comes off more serious a little bit. It also is a really my one of my notes when I was originally listening to it was 1-5-1-5-1-5-4-5 because that's the chord progression. It's really Anyways. And they say over and over again, "Johnny, come home! Johnny, please come home!" And it's great screaming, and it feels like the song literally feels great. There's a drum solo in this song, by the way. I don't know if that's important on a punk song, but it's really great. But I think the thing overall that stands out to me on this song is just like you can kind of hear a pain in Ken's vocals when he's screaming, "Johnny, come home! Johnny, please come home!" And because of that, it comes off as a little more. It's both raucous and heart touching at the same time. So I think that what we can take away from kind of those that kind of pained plea of "Johnny, come home, Johnny, please come home," is that this is probably a song about two friends, maybe even brothers, since it's like "come home," who have let something come in between them, and the singer obviously is torn up about it and realizes that whatever it is that came between them can't be near as important as their relationship, and so he's just inviting his friend or his brother home to mend fences. So,
Clifton, do you want to know what the song's really about?
No, why do you keep doing this to me?
And you're not as far off on this one.
Okay,
but let me.
Okay, then sure. Yeah, if I'm not far off, let's do this one.
All right. Johnny couldn't really find his place in life, controlled by depression and all the lies. Never really wanted to be alone. Johnny, come home. Johnny, please come home. Johnny was a friend of mine. I told him the truth. He left me behind, compromised his beliefs for some sex, traded all in for what's cool next, consumed by the crowd. Now he's on his own. Johnny, come home. Johnny, please come home. No longer strong enough to take a stand, gave it all up for an X on his hand, turned his back on God. I can do it alone. Johnny, come home. Johnny, please come home.
An X on his hand?
Yeah, like
he went to a show?
Funny that you mentioned that because that's one thing I wanted to talk about. I thought it meant he turned straight edge, but I was having a hard time reconciling that with the lyric few lines above where it says compromised his beliefs for some sex, traded it all in for what's cool next. Because straight edge is not really, it's about kind of abstaining from everything.
Right.
So maybe you're right. Maybe you have the right idea that he went to see a band, which is, really bad. I'm having trouble with that one.
Maybe these guys went to see bands.
Right.
Too.
I mean, I hope so.
So the first part, I like the first part. Johnny couldn't really find his place in life, controlled by depression and all the lies. Never really wanted to be alone. Johnny, come home. Johnny, please come home. That's great.
Yeah.
Johnny was a friend of mine. Good. I told him the truth and he left me behind. It's weird how Christians always get upset when people don't listen to them. Christians are the best I told you soers. Maybe that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
So it's just about some guy who wanted to fuck, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, we do know he compromised his beliefs for some sex. I don't know.
Although looking at this, with depression and the lies, speaking from my own experience, if you're dealing with depression and things like that, you very often want to do anything in the world to distract you from it.
Okay, right.
Well, that's disappointing. I guess it's not completely horrible, but yeah.
The part where it says Johnny was a friend of mine, I told him the truth, he left me behind. I was just thinking what was the truth you told him? If it was the stuff about you being persecuted from the first song, Cooler Than You Think, then no wonder. Good for Johnny.
Or he's like, dude, you shouldn't be having sex with your girlfriend. He's like, I need a different friend.
Right. So
I when I was about right after I graduated college, which was before I was diagnosed with my anxiety disorders, and kind of when they were at their worst, at least my experience of them was at their worst. I had a friend from high school who I, kind of kept up with in college, but not great. And he emailed me out of nowhere, and he had been reading my blog, and he literally emailed me, an enumerated list of my sins that he took from my blog. So, not me admitting my sins in my blog, just him reading my blog and then interpreting sins into my blog. He sent me an enumerated list of things I needed to repent for. And so I sent him an email back that said, hey man, if you want to chat as friends, I need that in my life. I need all the friends I can get. But if you just want to enumerate my sins, I don't need that in my life. I never heard from him again to this day.
Wow. So he read your blog and then was basically like, oh, Clifton's mentioning this, and that's actually a sin, and I need to make sure Clifton knows he's sinning?
Yep.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. What a great friend.
So if that's the truth, if that's Ken's kind of truth here, then I understand also.
Okay. Right. Yeah.
That's why I bring it up.
To say one slightly positive thing about this song is I like the music, but lyrically, I am surprised this is about a man and not a woman, because we've already seen this kind of motif in a lot of the albums we've looked at where it's almost always about women for some reason. They're always the ones that fall astray, all that. So at least this is about a dude this time. So
you're right. This song is worth celebrating because it's not about a woman.
Hey, it at least broke the cycle we were seeing. So,
It has, yes. We got a judgy song about a man. I love it. Good job, Johnny. You're a good inspiration.
All right. Let's go to the next one. That's the title of the EP, In the Year King Uzziah Died.
This is probably the best intro on any of the songs. It has this great bass solo that starts the song. And honestly, just listening to it kind of brings back memories just in that alone. And it's relaxing. It's like being at home listening to this intro for this song for some reason. And the first part kind of goes back and forth between Ken screaming, something that's impossible to understand, of course, And then we get gang vocals screaming back and forth with him. Uzziah was hardly a king at all, or maybe it was Uzziah was not a good king at all. Honestly, I can't tell. I can whatever's in my head when I listen to it, I can hear that out of it. I don't know which one of those it is, but it's one of those two probably. And the gang vocals have a girl the gang vocals are listed in the album, by the way, in the packaging. It's Sarah, and it's probably the Sarahs from Pink Daffodils, another band adjacent to 121, and Vince was the drummer for that band. And most of the gang vocals that are listed on the album are actually members of Pink Daffodils. I couldn't find that to listen to, but then Jay sent it to me like right before we started recording. So I haven't listened to it yet, but I can listen to it now, and maybe we'll put that out there for everyone to listen to as well. Oh, and also Sarah would go on to marry Ken's brother Chris, which is interesting, and Chris would later join the band. So a lot of intermingling here between Pink Daffodils and 121. The next part of the song, you can definitely hear like something about 1995, and then King Uzziah died. So not only was he like not a good king at all or something like that, he's dead now. And then we go back and forth with the gang vocals again, and then there's a lot of these guys definitely don't think a lot of King Uzziah. They have no good thoughts for him. And at one point, about halfway through the song, there's a breakdown with some palm muting, and this is the first time we hear it on the album, but it'll happen a few more times where we go into a palm muting part, and then Ken starts singing in a way that we can actually understand his vocals clearly. And the vocals here are me, Joe, Bill, and Jim. Later we would get Tom and Vince. Now it's me, Tom, Vince, and Paul. Uzziah was whatever. And then of course we get King Uzziah died, King Uzziah died, King Uzziah died, King Uzziah died. And it's like the best kind of punk rock song. It's just fast and chaotic, and you usually have no option but to just give in to the chaos of this song and enjoy it.
Yeah, I agree. This is like kind of the longest song on the album. It actually has an intro that's, I added it. It's like almost 20 seconds long, which for an album like this, it's really, really, really long. That's about all I have to say right now about it. Are you gonna, you have any other idea what the lyrics are about?
Lyrically, it's kind of interesting. I did some research. There's of course a biblical character named King Uzziah, who's a king of Judah that reigned for around 50 years. And there's a repeated refrain here that either Uzziah was hardly a good king at all, or Uzziah was hardly a king at all, or he wasn't a good king. I don't know, whatever it was. But the biblical Uzziah wasn't just a long-reigning king. He was a very successful king with a lot of good things written about him. He killed people in wars for God. He built things. He was supposedly very wise. But towards the end of his life, he got a little bit full of himself, and he entered the temple, and he burned some incense himself instead of letting the priest do it. So he was stricken with leprosy. It took him a few years to die from that, but he did eventually die from it, and supposedly when he died, it was a very sad day for Judah because they lost a very important king. So Uzziah wasn't hardly a king at all, and he wasn't a bad king. He was a very good king, and he was a very stable hand for Judah. And the Bible has good things to say about it. So I don't understand that exactly, but then there's this list of people. And the guy definitely says me, and then the list we get at the end is the guys in the band. Me, Tom, Vince, and Paul. It's Ken, Tom, Vince, and Paul. That's the guys in the band. I don't know. So this is a song about the band, or is it? I don't know. It's just it's weird. I don't know.
Yeah. So it's not about King Uzziah. It's about the band.
Oh.
Yeah. Uzziah is the band that Ken and Tom used to be in.
Oh.
Would you like the lyrics for this one too, Clifton?
Yeah. Go ahead.
All right, so, you talk about there's a repeated part, Uzziah was hardly a king at all, so I'm not going to read each one of those repeating parts, but I'll read you the lines before it. It just says,
so it's
in
the
the year...
one.
Yeah, in the year Uzziah died, everyone was sad. A struggle and a search was all that we had. Uzziah had become our lives, and now we're full of fear. To live is Christ, to die is gain, all in that year. Started off on 7-Eleven till 1995. That's when we were kicking. That's when we were alive. Then it came, the lines were drawn. We had to choose a side. 3 steps forward, 1 step back. King Uzziah died. 3 of us set back to make our focus clear. Pray hard, stand strong, and persevere through all the anger and all the pain, remembering to live as Christ, to die as gain. And then they list out the members like you're talking about and finish with Uzziah was hardly a king at all.
So it's a song about the band. I shouldn't have done that research about Uzziah.
Yeah, right. It's about their old band Uzziah breaking up.
It sounds hard. I mean, the breakup.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like it was amicable.
Right, and that it makes me kind of wonder, like, what about the other guys that they were in Uzziah with? It seems kind of like a dick move to put down like them so blatantly in the song. He says like the lines were drawn, we had to choose a side. It's like we're choosing righteousness over Uzziah. Those guys are really bad. Like I don't know.
What could possibly happen between guys in a band that they have to choose sides? I don't know. Maybe,
I don't know.
Maybe just God or not. I don't know. So, okay.
Side note, Uzziah, the band, had a demo tape called Space Dog.
Mm-hmm.
So I could not find it anywhere, but I know that it does exist. So we'd love to hear it if anyone out there has it and wants to share. And maybe that's why they broke up, because other guys didn't want their tape to be called Space Dog. I don't know.
That would require choosing sides.
Stupid name, guys. I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
We're leaving.
I would be on the not Space Dog side.
Yeah, I think me too.
No, I saw that there was someone that I saw interview Ken and Chris, and he had a copy of the Space Dog tape.
Yep.
It would be interesting to hear. Also, the 10-song EP, or 10-song demo that originated with these guys originally had, would be interesting to hear. I wonder if they brought any songs, because they recorded that demo so fast. I wonder if they brought any songs over from Uzziah.
Yeah, good question. I was wondering that too. So maybe it will find its way to the internet and we'll get to hear it.
You know what this reminds me of, though?
Mm-hmm.
In August of 1995, Rancid put out And Out Come the Wolves. And many of the songs on that album are Tim and Matt kind of reliving their days as kids in Operation Ivy. And this song kind of reminds me of that a little bit of exploring your own history and your own song.
I went back and listened to a little bit of Rancid when we were doing this, because I was trying to pinpoint, like, who does 121 sound like?
Mm-hmm.
Rancid, I feel like, is a little more melodic.
Yes, way more.
And slower at points. Even their albums, like before Out Come the Wolves. But I think there was definitely an influence of that. I listened to like Minor Threat and some other stuff too, and that's a little more like just straight hardcore. I don't know, but they're somewhere in that vein of all those kind of bands.
Yeah, and I feel like not the vocals on Grenade, but I feel like the music on Grenade is more like Rancid. It's more slow and melodic.
Yeah,
and the vocals are kind of all over the place on Grenade.
I feel like kind of as they evolved as a band, they slowed down a bit. They went more kind of towards Rancid sounding, kind of the variety you hear on a Rancid album. You started to kind of hear on a 121. Right.
Yeah, and they talk about that a little bit in their. I read an interview with them where they talk about kind of the songwriting, and they say that over the years they developed more tools to make a song feel intense, other than just going fast, which was kind of how they described this album, was just a fast album.
Right.
Which is fair, but it's also great because it's fast.
True.
So don't knock it. Yeah.
Well, let's jump back into it. Jehovah's Strength. I'll say this might have been, for some reason, my favorite song on the album. I don't know. It's just catchy anyway. Yeah,
it's super simple. It starts off really fun. There's just kind of some drums like and Ken just screaming kind of like Jehovah's Strength, Jehovah's Strength. And then there's a guitar that goes like Jehovah's Strength, Jehovah's Strength, Jehovah's Strength. And there's like a pick drag. There's a lot of pick drags on this album, by the way. And then whomp! It's just goes really fast. and it's mostly just repeating the line Jehovah's strength among some other lines that you can't exactly hear. At some point, I definitely hear, so angry at myself, where do I go? Where do I go for help? And I don't really mind the Jehovah's strength lyrics here. Mostly because this song is just so fun. And this is another song where we should celebrate the bassist because he tears it up. There is a bass solo on this song. Which is really good. It's not long, but nothing's long on any of these songs because they're only 2 minutes long for the most part. I don't know. This is, like I said, it's just a really fun song. It's kind of all over the place. It has fast parts, it has palm muting parts, it has the bass solo. Oh, this is the longest song on the album though, at 2 minutes and 27 seconds. I kind of love punk rock that's the longest song.
I like that it's kind of bouncy with that Jehovah's strength, the way it just kind of, it's a nice kind of bouncy chorus. And then I like when they're like screaming Jehovah, like towards the end of the song. So you kind of have that switch. And I'm like you, I'm more sympathetic to these lyrics, probably because they seem a little bit more personal than some of the other ones. Like he says, alone and depressed and angry at myself. Something like, where do I turn? Where do I run for help? Like it's a more of a personal side. And so I'm not going to like trash it as much as some of the other ones that are a little more kind of preachy and in your face. So yeah, this is a good song.
Yeah, fun song. I really like it.
Yeah. Well, let's go on to Cleanser, number 6.
There's no bad songs in this album, but this is probably the least memorable song from my standpoint. But even with that said, it's still a great song. There's some fun gang vocals on this song again. They're screaming something. I don't know if it's like freedom or Jesus. I don't know. They're screaming something. Even though this is one of the less memorable ones for me, and maybe just because I honestly can't understand the lyrics on here, so I think I'm more listening to the music than I even usually do, which the music is always great. That the vocalist really comes off well here. But yeah, the one that I wrote kind of on my first listen through of this was just everyone in this band is a hero of this band.
Yeah, it's short. Lyrically, I know it was kind of hard to make out, but you're right. He is screaming Jesus.
Okay.
He's like, I mean, basically this is like a gospel tract set to punk rock. I mean, it's short. I'll read it to you. It says, cleansed by the blood he shed for me. That day he died on Calvary. I was blind, but now I see. Captive of sin, but he set me free. Jesus, cleanser of sin. Jesus, just ask him in. Jesus, cleanser of sin. Jesus, new life begins. Takes away all our sins. All you have to do is ask him in. When you do, your new life begins. Forgive him from all your sins.
Okay.
It's got a lot of like Christian terminology that I wonder how much somebody that's not in the church would get, like bloodshed for me, died on Calvary, blind but now I see, captive of sin, cleansed of sin. Like it's, yeah.
My first thought when you said that it was a gospel tract was maybe say the lyrics so that other people can understand them. But then you read the lyrics, I was like, never mind. That's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not bad. Like you said, there's so much church speak here that it wouldn't mean anything to someone who didn't know what it was about anyway.
Right, exactly. So, it's one of those interesting things where it's funny to think back because I think back in those times you think that you're being bold and quote unquote preaching the gospel, but I think people that don't have your kind of cultural backgrounds are just hear it and like, what the hell is he talking about?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, oh, cool. They're using Christian words. All right, whatever. I do wonder lyrically if this was one of the earlier songs they wrote. just because it's so simple and so kind of just like I said, a tract. I mean,
yeah,
I don't know.
There's definitely songs that were on the original 10-song demo that are on this. It's very possible.
Let's go to the last song, Front.
This is probably the hardest song on the album to talk about. It's definitely, like, it's musically the most complex. From what you can understand of the lyrics, it's the most complex. But yeah, it starts off with it opens up with the bass again. It's not as catchy as that in the Year King Uzziah Died bass intro, but it's a lot faster. And then once again, there's a pick drag. I would say they really lean on the pick drags, but kind of all of punk does lean on pick drags, and really all of, if you know what you're listening for, all of rock and roll leans on pick drags. So yeah, I'm not gonna make fun of them for it. Definitely maybe heard "The Devil Forgets" and "I Don't Want to Die" in the opening vocals. But then it goes into a palm muting chorus where, once again, we can understand Ken's vocals because he changes the way he sings. And he says, "Ashamed of myself, I just want to cry. You would never know by the way I am tonight. Inside I feel like I want to die. Outside to you everything is all right." And after another kind of verse, Ken screams, "This is a front." And there's this like kind of like great drum roll behind us, like, "This is a front."
Like I want to die. Outside to you, everything is alright.
So from that, we get the "Ashamed of Myself" lyrics again, kind of, and this kind of time, kind of like over a decaying guitar instead of over palm muting. It goes into feedback, which is really nice. And then when that part is over, it just there's like a little bass lick similar to the front one, and it's just like bum up from everybody, and then the entire album's over once again, really fast, 2 minutes and 14 seconds.
It's not, to me, I remember some of the other songs on the album more than this one. Maybe it's just placement wise, but it's an okay song. I like that it seems more honest, and again, the lyrics are kind of personal more than others.
It's my favorite song on the album.
Yeah, okay.
Probably just because of the lyrics that we can't understand. So let's talk about them, right?
Yeah.
So we get that part that's, "Ashamed of myself, I just want to cry. You would never know by the way I am tonight. Inside I feel like I want to die. Outside you everything is all right." And it really just it's probably the biggest like dark turn on this album, and especially like the defiant declaration of "This is a front." It really touched me, when I was listening to this as a kid, especially, and listening to it even while preparing for this podcast, kind of took me back to kind of that feeling of being a kid. And I think that's something every teenager can understand, of putting on a front, and probably even most adults, honestly. Just putting on facades to get through the day, kind of, but especially as a teenager, like with all those crazy hormones and emotions pulling you in every direction and just trying to look like a sane and collected human being. I think that it's important for everyone to remember to feel sorry for teenagers every now and then. I know they can be pains in the ass, but you gotta stop and think about it. Their bodies are literally betraying them. They have hormones pumping through them that's like a continuous bad trip that makes them like horny and moody and tired, and that's some rough shit. And I don't want to be a teenager at all. I'm really glad I'm not a teenager anymore. That's what this song made me think of.
I too am glad I'm no longer a teenager.
I don't understand people who are like, those are my best years. Nope.
No. Oh God, no. No.
Even though we're doing a podcast to celebrate the music from that time in our life, not my best years.
Yeah, true. Fair. Let's be clear. Yeah, definitely not. In fact, it took us this long to be able to go back to it and actually talk about it, right?
True.
So,
or you can tell me about the actual lyrics.
Yeah, I was going to,
God
because like it's You're right, but there's more. Allow me, this is a little bit longer, but
Okay.
it says, every time you see me, you think I'm okay. I put on a front so you don't know my pain. I try to make you think that everything's all right. I want to let you know, but I don't know how. God, please help me. Please help me. And this is good, right? But then, please help me to resist the devil's sweet temptation, the devil's sweet kiss. I know what is right and I know what to do, but my lust grows strong. God, please help me through. And you got the part right. Ashamed of myself. I just want to cry. You would never know by the way I acted tonight. Inside, I feel like I want to die. Outside, to you, everything is all right. My soul has grown weary. I have no more strength. I've fallen to my knees. I've taken my last breath. I plead, oh dear Lord, God, please help me through. Take me from this life of sin. Lead me to you. Praise you, Lord. You gave me strength. You broke down these walls. You saw me through. You won. You saw me through. You didn't let me fall. You won this war. Now I confront no more.
That was long.
I know. It was kind of long. Can we go back to the help me to resist the devil's sweet temptation, the devil's sweet kiss?
Yeah, this song's about sex?
I'm guessing so, because then he mentions,
I did not see that coming.
Lust grows strong. God, please help me through. You would never know by the way I acted tonight.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. Also, though, like, can we think about what these lyrics are implying, aside from sex, for a second?
Okay.
The devil's sweet temptation, the devil's sweet kiss?
Yeah.
Is this women are the devil? Because that's
sounds hot to me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how else you could interpret that.
I did not think of that, but that's a very good point.
I mean,
that is implied here,
right? I'm with you. Like, I like the idea of dropping the front, in that kind of facade you put on, but then when it veers into the sex stuff, not that like kids at this time didn't have that as well, but it just. I don't know. It kind of became a quest to be holy more than like a quest to be honest.
I like the first part. Every time you see me, you think I'm okay. I put on a front so you don't know my pain. I try to make you think that everything's all right. I want to let you know, but I don't know how. I like that.
Yeah,
that's a real struggle. Feeling isolated and not knowing how to let someone else know how you feel. And so you put on the front just because you don't know if explaining yourself, if you're going to even be able to explain yourself in such a way that they don't just think that you're a freak.
Right.
I get that, especially, coming from teenagers. I mean, that's I feel that deep inside me. As you said here, I'm disappointed that this is a song that's about sex and that it's about, even though it's about not putting on a front, I feel like it's about putting on a different front.
Good point. Yeah. And
really, if you get right down to it, the only reason that this person thought they couldn't explain that to the other person is probably because of the culture they were in that it's just not acceptable to say, hey, I'm struggling with sexual temptation.
Right.
And unless you're in, your sex-separated Bible study group, then it's not okay to talk about. And then you have to talk about it because you have to admit the things you did wrong, because if you don't, everyone will think you're lying.
Oh, stuff I've tried to forget about. Yep, good point.
So how many times did you masturbate this week, Jay? Moving on. I don't want the answer to
that. Yeah, so let's talk about this album overall. What are your thoughts?
So I really love the album. And so for some reason, Winamp told me what the average track length was in this album, which is 2 minutes and 5 seconds, which is great. Like I said, I love punk rock, and that, you can get a bunch of songs in under 2 minutes. The music is great. It's fast. It's fun. It's energetic. It's urgent, and full of like that youthful feeling that there just isn't enough time to do all the things you think you need to do. The lyrics are disappointing, though. I think I'm gonna keep my lyrics.
I like your lyrics too. That was
good.
I had the hardest time with this album, probably more than any of the ones we've done, because I really like the music.
Yeah.
But then when I started looking at the lyrics, I really did not like some of the lyrics. And so it was real extreme with this one.
I think the lyrics for the last half of the album are less annoying than the lyrics for the front half of the album.
When they're a little more honest, I'm
personal.
cool with that. But when it's more preachy, not so much.
Yeah.
So this was a tough one. Music is great. Lyrically,
I found a couple reviews for this. One was a Cross Rhythms review, but it didn't really say anything interesting. But I mentioned before that All Music review. I want to read that. It's really short, and I think it's important to. I kind of disagree with everything in it, so I want to read it here. It says, "In the Year King Uzziah Died" is an EP from Christian punk rockers 121. I don't disagree with that.
Okay.
Offering little more than exuberant playing style and a high-octane batch of songs, there is a distinct sloppiness that actually counts against the album. Although they have the energy, the guitars and bass seem to mesh together, and the vocals are very hard to understand. This would be fine if the songwriting was stronger, but the band takes their cue from British punk, all of the UK subs, making for some average and dated songs that don't benefit from the messy production. This is all energy and no payoff, make it an easy item to avoid. All the things that he counted as negative there are kind of all the things I love about this album.
Right.
It's little more than exuberant playing style and high-octane batch of songs. Right. It's great. Say it again. There is a distinct sloppiness. Correct. It's great. It does not count against the album. And he says that the guitars and bass seem to mesh together. And I understand, like, there so many people, especially musicians, want to hear the separate instruments separately because they're like, hey, I can't hear myself play. I don't care. Like, in my opinion, music should mesh together so that you're just listening to a song, not individual instruments playing together. They said the songwriting's not great, and that's fine. I guess this is, early on for this band, but it is fun. It's all energy and no payoff. I disagree. It's just all energy, and it's a lot of fun. That's all I want to say.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't get the comparison to the UK subs who I actually looked up and listened to a little bit because of that.
Really? I did not.
I like they about half the tempo. They're like late 70s punk. About half the tempo of this. Like I don't know if he just didn't know any other punk bands. I don't know. Yeah. I don't agree either.
And it is more of a UK style of punk because it's not Ramones style, right?
Sure.
So it is a more UK style of punk that's more chaotic than the early on American stuff. But honestly, by 95, there wasn't. UK style of punk took over the United States faster than Ramones took over the United States, so it doesn't really matter.
Right.
I don't know. I didn't know where to talk about this, so I think maybe this is the best place to talk about it because I think it gets into. It kind of goes back to that lyrics things a little bit here because there's a certain pretentiousness to some of the lyrics here that are disappointing. So Jay, you found this interview with Vince Radcliffe, the drummer. You sent it to me and you said, "This guy is no fun." And I thought, oh, how not fun could he be? Jay is probably just being sarcastic. And then I opened it and I read it and I was like, no, Jay is not being sarcastic.
And to be fair, I don't know when this interview was. I couldn't find a year. I'm guessing it's around this time or when the Dragon is finally laid to rest. Like I'm thinking late 90s, just based on the way the webpage looks. Like the webpage looks really old, right?
Yeah, that webpage is not 2001. That webpage is more 1999.
Yeah. And also to be fair, I mean, I told you about that T-shirt I wore. Like, good God, I'm sure there were times in my life if you asked me some of these questions, I would have really pretentious, holy answers too. So
I agree, but I want to give this as an example as to the exact pretentiousness that we are dealing with, and then I want to discuss why it's toxic a little bit more.
Yep, go for it.
So let's read here. Jay, can you read for us his answer to the question, "Who is your favorite band to play with?"
Right. And again, before I read that, you're probably expecting them to say like the Huntingtons, or I know they played with Goaty Hook a lot because they weren't too far away, or maybe some like other local Philly band, right? Here's your answer. There is not really a band that I could call our favorite because there is too much unity shared amongst us all, a bond sealed with the redeeming blood of Christ, being brought together by music and the desire to serve Christ with a disciplined act of devotion and sincerely sharing our faith from our hearts makes picking favorites impossible. In the same way that I could not choose one brother over another, I cannot choose one group above another because all the members are brethren in Christ.
And I'm gonna need him to write this straight off. I mean, it's just, that is, first off, not an answer.
Right.
And second off, fuck you for making me read that, like, And just in case you think we're cherry picking, Jay, can you read his answer to, does anyone have any tattoos?
Kenny has a couple of tattoos, but that is not something that I would glorify. I do not mean to imply that they are necessarily wrong, but they are definitely not right.
Kick rocks, you twat. I just.
He's also like a politician, right? He's not like really answering the questions. He did kind of on that one, but a lot of these he doesn't really even actually answer them.
Right, yeah. So I want to read here the answer to how is the local scene there? The local scene, or the part I touch, is a body of believers who strive to reflect Christ in their life and their music. As a whole, we're not always perfect, but our perfect God seems to use us in spite of ourselves. People have been saved through the scene, and believers had fallen away from it. Still, what a ride serving and praising God can be. Honestly, like, everything after or the part I touch is just in my mind. Like, it's just... Like, I think the first time I read it, I just blacked out, and just ringing filled my ears. I don't.
Yeah. Come on. Like, these are really simple questions. They want to know about the local scene, who's your favorite band to play with, and they gives these long answers that are just really pretentious, preachy things that aren't helpful or useful.
Yeah, and Jay, say we were at the end of the interview, and I was like, "Hey, do you have any last words?"
Right. Probably I'd say no, or have one short shout out about something, but yeah.
Yeah, maybe like, hey, thanks everyone who listens,
Exactly.
We really appreciate it. We couldn't do this without you, We're so grateful. What if instead I said this? There are many opportunities that we have within our lifetime. Numerous decisions that can make, and hundreds of paths that we might follow. One road might lead to wealth and another to sudden death. But no choice is greater than the one that will determine our eternal well-being. From birth, our sinful course has set us toward separation from God. We're all centered on a spiritual destination created for those angelic beings who first stood against God. The devil and his army are at enmity with God. And what the fuck is this about? We're not even a third of the way through it. And in case anyone's confused, he was giving a gospel message there. Insufferable asshole.
Hey, you remember the first line of Cooler Than You Think? You call us weirdos, you say that we are freaks? Well, yeah, here we go.
Yeah, I've got more words. Okay, one more, because this is still within the do you have any last words? We're a little further down now, but we're still within that question. He says, finally, I would only encourage those believers out there to shed the things of their flesh that distract them from God. Allow Christ to increase your life through the study of His Word and continual prayer throughout the day. Allow yourself to decrease as you seek to serve Him and not yourself in life. For our walks and our witness are all that count as we kneel before God. Everything else will fade away, and He's not done yet! I don't know why He's saying this. Like, you could have said that in 8 words.
Yeah, right.
Well, I bring this up because it is just so poisonous. It's completely detached. It's robotic. And, kind of to go back to that story I told you earlier about the friend of mine who I've never heard from again after he sent me that email, he was like this, right? This reminds me of him. And it reminds me kind of like of every fucking douche bro that I knew around this time, that knew from the age of 16 that they were going to be a pastor. They all talked like this. And when they went to seminary, it didn't get better. It's just, there's nothing human about this. If you think that this is how you connect with humans, you're wrong. You're just wrong. That's all.
Agree. I don't think I can add anything to that.
It hurts me with how much I like this album. That makes sense? Yeah.
Yeah, totally. That's the problem with this one, right?
It is. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about something else.
What do you think of the cover?
Yeah, it's perfect. I mean, I think Stuart and I bought it based on the cover. Yeah, that I will say I read that the original cover of this EP was the cover that was later used on their self-titled album, the one with the Crossbones logo on the front with the American flag behind it. But Ken, in that interview Ken was talking about, he said the American flag is a pretty strong symbol politically and socially, and the EP didn't even touch on any of that stuff. I just felt like that cover wasn't a very good representation of what was in that EP, and he's right. I think the EP is great. It's there's a Crossbones 121 logo, and then kind of in front of that, it has kind of just like cut out of magazine type lettering in the Year King Uzziah Died. That's kind of just spread across the front. It's really great.
They are one of the bands that actually has a really nice band, like, I don't know how else to say it, but logo.
Yeah.
And they use it a lot, and it's great. I don't know who drew it, but it looks really, really nice. And you're right, it looks super punk when you're looking at it. Like, it really fits their style. Like, whoever did that, props to them, because they did a perfect job. And I know the band has used it, from then on.
Yeah, I think this is the first time it appears, and then they ditched it for When the Dragon is Finally Laid to Rest, but they brought it back for their self-titled album after that, and they've kept it ever since. It's on it's on their webpage, or it was on their webpage and everything. They don't have a webpage anymore, sadly. Packaging, I think, is very punk rock. All the lyrics.
I think what they did was just use that like army font. That's what I call it. I don't know, and just printed them out, kind of line by line, some of them, others like a little section at a time, and just like glued them on there. So it looks very punk, but it was like super simple. I mean, you or I could have made like this layout. Which is cool. It's like very effective for what it is.
It is. And the back of it where the songs are listed, they're kind of printed out with like one of those label makers,
Right.
I think it's all really, really nice. It's all very effective. I really like it. In the credits, there's a couple things I want to touch on.
Okay.
It says all music by 121 and Joe Rawson. And there's not a Joe in the band, but there is a Joe mentioned as being part of the previous iteration of Uzziah, which makes kind of sense because it says that 3 stepped forward and 1 stepped back. So it would, because we have 2 guys from Uzziah, but then we're missing that third that stepped forward. So maybe that guy was originally part of, or going to be part of the band, but didn't continue over. And then Cooler Than You Think is credited to 121 and Chris Klein. And Chris Klein is Ken's brother, who would later join the band as a guitarist. And although it's weird that This Is Our Riot song isn't listed as by Chris Klein, because it literally says, me and my brother were sitting around trying to write a song, and that's probably Chris.
Right.
That's it. I already mentioned something about Pink Daffodils being listed in the gang vocals. Yeah, I think that's all I had.
Well, where are they now?
So, in 1998, 121 were recording a second album for Flying Tart when Flying Tart folded, which explains why none of their stuff is on Spotify or things like that these days. There's kind of a lot of bad blood around the end of Flying Tart, which I think we'll talk about later because that's a whole story in itself. But 121 says that the label released them from their contract when they folded, and that they obviously had a good relationship with Alex. Grey Dot very quickly signed the band on to their Bulletproof label and released 121's first full-length album, When the Dragon is Finally Laid to Rest, in 1998. When the band went out on tour to support that album, they added guitarist Chris Klein, which is Ken's brother, as I already mentioned. And kind of with those releases, with the Dragon and the previous ones, kind of 121 kind of grew into this fairly respected, if not often talked about, band that was prominent in the local live scene and traveled around a lot and played when they could. At least most people I've talked to about Christian music at this time, if they didn't listen to 121, they at least knew who they were, which is kind of weird for a band that isn't one of those big bands that we think about, But especially even in the scene, like you get a lot of people talking about them. I found a bunch of different things, especially like I pulled out 2 quotes from different Decapolis show reviews where they talk about the band. One said, "I think the mic was in the crowd more than it was in the singer's hand for a majority of the set." And another one says, 121, one of the most underrated Christian punk bands. 121 is full of really nice guys that love the Lord and know how to rock. Agreed. But then after they toured for When the Dragon is Finally Laid to Rest, the band kind of slowed down. Ken went to Bible college. Vince and Tom went to college a year or so after that. Chris, who had just joined 121 for that tour, went on to join Squad 5-0. And then eventually Paul, the other guitarist, left. And then Adam from Squad 5-0 temporarily joined to replace Paul and to record a new album, although both Paul and Adam play on that album. So that album is was in 2000. So several years later, what's that, like 2.5 years later, after The Dragon, the guy started playing this new album in late 2000. But things fell apart with Bulletproof Records because they couldn't reach a deal to get the money to record in the end. But the guys were very quickly picked up by Face Down Records and would stay there for 2 more albums. So they released a self-titled album in 2001 and an album called Grenade in 2003. And then on June 30th, 2005, the band played their last show, and according to them, they never broke up, they just kind of stopped. But it doesn't end there. Tom formed a band called Fang Fang that Chris Klein, his wife Sarah, who was also in Pink Daffodils, and Ken are all in now. You can find them on Spotify and probably other streaming platforms. In 2020, Chris Klein talked the band into getting back together and recording a new 4-song EP. That ended up being a 5-song EP with a cover of Johnny Cash's... what's the name of that song?
I think The Man Comes Around, is that right?
Yeah. The Man Comes Around, which is a great cover of that song. I don't want to... The entire album's good. It kind of exists somewhere between the self-titled and Grenade, I think. But it's a good album, or it's a good 4-song EP. Also in 2020, Chris and Ken show up on a release by The Blamed called 5.98 Quarantine Days Revisited /20 years ... again. I don't know what that is. I can't find it. But Chris shows up as an engineer and Ken sings a song written by Crash Dog. I don't know what that is at all, but they're on it. There isn't any talk of any live shows right now, and it's kind of doubtful if there ever will be. They said that, I forget which member they said, but one of the members doesn't like to kind of go back and do, is not very nostalgic and likes to look forward and not back, so he's unlikely to want to do any further stuff. But yeah.
And I think I saw one of the guys, Chris or Ken, owns that kind of recording studio where they recorded their new EP, and I think they're also putting out something new by Squad 5-0.
Oh, really?
So I saw on their thing, it's called like Philadelphia Recording Service. So
yes,
we will see.
Yeah, I think it's Chris that owns it. Yeah.
So do we have an award for this one, Clifton?
I'm going to give this EP a very special award called, I didn't get the lyrics wrong. They did. I'm keeping my lyrics. They may not make sense, but they're better. And I'm going to keep continuing screaming them along because...
All right. So, Clifton, what are we listening to next time?
We're going to listen to Luxuries, Amazing, and Thank You. I think this is their first album.
It is, and this is going to be quite the change lyrically from where we've been before. It also gives us a chance to talk about their really good documentary that came out about the band, so this should be fun.
Right. I need to watch still, too. And I never listened to it back in the day, so I'm excited to... I have listened to the latest and the greatest since then, but I haven't never listened to Amazing and Thank You. So I'm looking forward to it.
I think you're going to like it.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Cool.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Your Music Saved Us.
If you enjoyed your time with us, please leave us a review or share this episode. Visit our website, yourmusicsavedus.com, to find out all the ways you can listen. We're on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. Join our Facebook group or follow us to keep up with the latest or to interact with us. Send complaints and disagreements to yourmusicsavedus@gmail.com.
And the music in this episode is the work of 121 and is used with apologies, not permission.
So listen to their new EP, Say It Loud, on streaming platforms. Give Gang Gang a listen, or give Fang Fang a listen. Gang Gang is also a band, really good, love them. I wish there was more ways to support them, but they don't even have a website anymore, so, support them on streaming platforms. Thanks, guys.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Like.
And with me.
Stop.
Oh, no. What'd I do?
Just tilt the microphone up a little bit. You're too far away from the microphone.
Oh, I'm trying to be farther away.
Don't be farther away.
Every episode, I try something new. Okay. How's this sounding now?
That sounds great.
Hearing it. Let me move these wires so I don't keep touching
Because it sounded like you were in the distance, you know?
Okay. Well,
and that's really hard to get rid of.
Okay, let me try it one more time. All right, you ready?
Okay.